Now we're back to the falsehood and lying.
Okay.
As I did the last time. So what's the difference between
a test.
falsehood and lying?
Okay. Lying is deception.
It's intentional.
Intentional. You know you're wrong. You're just getting out of something. Falsehood could be you really believe it's true, but then you're proven later that it wasn't. So it was a falsehood, but you understood it and you thought it was real. And
Yes.
right.
So it's still wrong.
Yeah.
And wrong to pass it on.
Yes.
But you didn't have the intention of
it's
deceiving
motive.
me.
It's a motive. Yeah.
Right.
Lying.
So,
I'm out to trick you.
Mostly, I'm okay with falsehood. I wasn't okay with Piltdown Man because it's an intentional deception. I'm not okay in this case. I won't even have to. I'll just let this man speak for himself. There's a man, and I'm going to do this. You can find a treatment of it in creation.com, and you'll find it other places. But the man's name is Bora, and his last name is kind of tough. It's Zivkovic, Zivkovic.
Okay. I won't say that.
Now Bora has a position, and I'm gonna make sure I get this right. He was with Science America, and he handled all their on Scientific America, an editor of the blog network. This is a guy in charge of kind of public education for Scientific America.
Okay.
Now, when you see these things, you want to remember there's one thing that mankind in general, and evolutionary society in particular, is good at, and that's making up really high-sounding corporate names for these things.
Names in general.
Yeah, when you see a name like the Justice League, the one thing you're going to be sure of is they're not really interested in justice. It's probably going to be the Injustice League. They're very good at this, and I'm not going to say them alone because a lot of organizations are hidden in that name, right? If you want, like, Free America might as well just be a Marxist organization, right? That'll be that kind of a. It's that silly.
Yeah.
You'll see it and you're like, how did they choose that? Well, they chose it because they think the average guy is so stupid that he's just going to believe the name and draw his own conclusions. Okay. So now, here's what happens. Bora is doing these online things, and he gets into magazine interviews and he says things that you're supposed to hide. That's his real sin here.
Uh-oh.
Okay? He's not the only guy who thinks like this inside that community and here's what their agenda is. Remember I said the last time, agendas are everything. Their agenda is to make converts of college and high school students.
Okay.
Now, you might say...
Converts to
their religion.
Which is?
Which is either scientism gone wrong or atheism gone right. Okay? So you can make your mind up on if I can prove this to you. But Bora, I don't have to prove it. He'll do it himself.
Okay.
Now, he lost his job after this interview, but not particularly over the interview. He got into trouble directly thereafter for harassing this woman, that woman, and their sisters.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And even in that community, that's a no-no. So he's right. He loses that position. In fact, he resigns. He admits to it. Says, "Well, I'm married and I shouldn't have done it. God bless everybody,
Yeah.
And I'm going on down the road." Now he works now at a community college in North Carolina.
Okay.
Okay, as far as I can see.
Okay.
Now I might be mistaken. It might be Tennessee, but I think it's North Carolina. I think he lives in Chapel Hill. I try to be fair about where these guys are. I don't mean to, because whatever he's doing today, I'm not even going to address that. I'm just telling you he's alive and well and busy trying to still preach the gospel of unbelief.
Right.
Okay? So he's trying to make converts. Now they swear you don't do that. Now people like Richard Dawkins have gotten mad at him, right? Why? Well, he uses false theories to convert people. And Richard Dawkins is against one in particular. It's called NOMA, put forth by a guy who's now deceased, Stephen Jay Gould, who was a famous scientist. Okay? So Stephen Jay Gould had this thing, and I don't want to say it to you except once. NOMA stands for non-overlapping Magisteria. Right, there you go. So in case that's the last time I'm going to say that to you.
Thank you.
Point is, it's a wrong theory, and here's what the theory is. The theory is that religion and science don't intersect ever. Therefore, in the scientific mindset, they can't prove or disprove each other. In other words, they travel in two different lines like this, parallel, and they never intersect.
So not true.
It's not true.
No.
So a guy like Dawkins knows it's not true.
Yeah.
So he's mad about this use. He doesn't.
Yeah.
He thinks this goes over the line, even though I will show you what deceptions he employs
Of course. In the
when
same
he doesn't
vein.
tell you the truth,
Yeah.
the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yeah, yeah.
But he's indignant about this particular one.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to be fair with him.
Yeah, that's
He
fine.
actually spoke up and said, this is ridiculous. In the next breath, he said, of course, Christianity is ridiculous. But you got to give him his due. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, I asked myself this question to see if this is, do evolutionists at times purposely deceive your children? You know how I like to do this and ask myself?
Yeah.
Yes. The answer is yes. By deceive, do you mean lie to them? Yes.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I do mean that. Prove it. Okay, but let me ask you something first. If you have a room full of people who are evolutionists today, how many of them, and I don't just mean variation, and I don't mean believe in natural selection, I can fit in that group.
Right.
Everybody says, if we're in a room full of atheists, and they say, how many of you believe in evolution? Right? I'm going to raise my hand. Now, I don't mean in the grand sense they mean
Right.
it in. I mean it in technical sense that it was meant to be.
Yeah. Which
So-
is.
Which is, it's going to be natural selection. I believe in
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Where the bigger animals do the. Yes.
Well, no, it's like the beak growing longer
Yeah.
in the Galapagos, right? All those things that Darwin saw. I don't have any problem with that. Natural selection, sure. The strongest are bound to survive
Sure.
better. All these traits get, okay.
Okay.
But variation's very small. Not these grand ones where you're going to get this ape to you, or any
Right.
kind of.
Well, I just think that little bit just makes me in awe of the creator behind that he would even give that as a ability for these
Yes.
people to adapt. I mean, these little creatures, not people,
Right.
but yeah.
So when
Anyway.
you're in that room, though, if they ask you, can you see it coming all the way from this little tiny organism in the pond scum, right, and evolving into a U.S. senator, I'd say, if you told me it evolved into a sixth grader, I'd feel better than a senator at this moment. But since it's a senator, I'd say, okay, I can't agree with that. Everybody else in the room could raise their hand
Yeah.
and say, well, we do. I'd be the only dissenter.
Right.
Okay, so there is a line here. So I'm asking that because how many people in that room believe there's absolute, I'm in the room with all of these atheists, how many of us, if they say, how many of you believe there are absolute truths in this world?
I would. Yeah.
Anybody else raising their hand?
No.
No, I'm the only one. I'm the dissenter. Okay, how many of you believe that truth can change, right? That was right today could be wrong 10 years from now or 100 years from now or 1,000 years from now. Everybody raises their hand except me.
Yeah. 'Cause
There are absolute rights and wrongs.
there are.
I'm going to say yes, there are absolutes, okay? That's what makes them relativists, naturalists, atheists. You understand? They've got all of this in common. I'm the one who looks like he doesn't belong. Okay? Which one doesn't belong, like the kids' lesson, right? In third, fourth grade. I am that guy in that group. Okay? So I want you to think about their morals.
Okay.
I have morals and I can't lie to you.
Okay.
Now, I could,
Yeah.
but I'm not supposed to.
Right.
I never have, by the way. So, if I did, you'll forgive me if I repent.
If you
The,
repent, repentance is the key here.
You ever notice how you forget your own life real quickly, no matter who you are? It's a very good way to
Yeah.
get through life.
Yeah.
But, at any rate, I have rules I have to live
Yeah,
by
you
because
do.
God's watching me.
You have a
right?
measuring
And I
stick
expect
for
to
sure.
I expect to appear at the judgment and give an
Yep.
account for what I've done. Okay? Now, nobody else in that room believes it, even though in my mind, they're all going to give the same account.
And you
right
used
now,
to
they
sit
don't
there
believe
with them.
it.
You
I
used to be an atheist.
I
so,
was an atheist,
yeah,
so I would have
you would have been in that team, but now
part
you're
of
on.
that team, but I'm not now. I'm the dissenter.
Yep.
So when you see this, you say to yourself, okay, do all of these guys, do they have the same dynamic moral system that Bill Moore has? And the answer has to be no, because theirs can change. They don't even have to agree on right and wrong in that room.
No.
Okay? So if it becomes that the agenda is to make converts of the high school and college students, could we lie to them on occasion?
Well, if it would be to their benefit because they would be able to embrace whatever the product is you're selling.
That's right. It's going to be
Yeah.
in their best interest.
It's in their
long run.
best
Now,
interest,
I'm going to say
yeah.
that because Dawkins would say, but in this case, I don't want him to. But listen to this guy now. I'm just going to let you say it.
Who's this guy?
It's Bora.
Okay.
Bora Zivkovic.
Okay.
Now, I'm not going to tell you that all teachers and professors lie about these things. I will tell you it happens quite often, and I will tell you that there is an agenda, and I won't just say that. I'm going to prove it to you, but here Bora will do it for me. That's what I just want to make sure I get this. Remember, the ends in their mind justify the means.
Right.
That's always the issue. Okay? You want students to believe. Now, I did run across something I'm not used to saying, which is a misotheist. You have an anti-theist who's really anti-God. He's got a little venom towards God. A misotheist is a God hater. Okay? So he's up to the game. This guy's a God hater. Now, that's stronger. An atheist is supposed to say, no God.
No God.
Right. He's not supposed to have his pulse move fast when he does it. But we've got all these new categories. Now, I want you, here's what he's allowing. He's allowing for the distortion of facts and the presentation of that NOMA theory as if it's a fact when he knows it's not.
Okay.
Okay? He doesn't mind that. Now, so here's what happens. You're going to see it, and let me see Bora's quote. Okay. He says, you cannot bludgeon kids with truth or insult their religion, their parents, etc., and hope they will smile and believe you. Yes, NOMA is wrong. That theory is wrong. But it is a good first tool for gaining their trust.
Yikes.
You can lie to them, he's
Sounds
saying.
like brainwashing.
Why? You want to, because he recognizes that if you get a student's trust, right, then you can sell them on your agenda.
Whatever else.
But they have to trust you. So you do it saying, this is real evidence for this, okay? Now, you have to bring them over to your side.
What a salesman.
You have to gain their trust and hold their hands and help them step by step. Why? Is what I'm going to say over and over today. These guys think that students, high school and college students, are stupid, okay, and gullible. I think they're gullible and lazy. That's the distinction I make.
Okay.
I don't think the young people, I expect them to be gullible. They're young people and they haven't been through this where they've been lied to 80,000 times like I have.
Right.
But they're also very lazy. It wouldn't take much to discover Bora exists and to know, well, wait a minute, is Bora the only case of this in the actual? Sadly, no. Okay? So you'll see it here even. You got to hold their hands, help them step by step. And on that slow journey, right, from creation believing
Like
to
their parents or
to
whatever.
the bright side in their mind, right?
Yeah.
And on that slow journey, which will be painful for many of them, it is okay to use some inaccuracies temporarily if they will help you reach the students. Reach. They always use this verb, reach. It means if you can help
Brainwash.
you reach if you can win them over to your side, reach and pull them over, no matter what the reasoning is. Doesn't have to be actually good. The truthfulness is not the cornerstone here. Now, look, he runs across this. They're asking him about a Florida teacher, and this guy's name is David Campbell, and he's an activist. Now, you should recognize that it's very likely that there's going to be activists in your school system. That's why you shouldn't have given them the school board, right? You shouldn't have done all of those things you did, and we can make it up now, close that off. We need to get back in the school boards and own the school system. Parents, I see parent-teachers organizations now demanding the school boards resign, right? They want to get rid of the activists, and they want to be able to dictate what gets taught at that school. That's not a bad thing.
Yeah,
Okay,
parents.
now here it is. Here's what they ask him. Is it okay for this guy to, here's what the guy's teaching the high school students, believe it or not, that Mickey Mouse, he's in Florida, Mickey Mouse and the change of his face and drawing is evolution. Yeah, I know. You can't believe it. It's so stupid. Now here, right, Mickey Mouse drawings. Yes, yeah, but watch. It is okay if they keep some of those little inaccuracies for the rest of their lives. It is precisely fine if they keep thinking that Mickey Mouse evolved, as long as they think evolution is fine and dandy overall. Well, kids get your teacher. You're supposed to be able to trust him, you think. And you haven't been told that you ought to be suspicious of them because parents are reluctant to do that. But it tells you we're not having dinner table discussions. By the time my kid brought that up at dinner table, I'd be over at the school with the Mickey Mouse guy, right? I'd be having a little talk with him. Now, what happens, without Mickey, they may have become creationists instead. Oh my goodness, imagine that. Now this is a guy teaching online for Scientific America. And now he's talking about a Florida high school teacher and saying, I approve of this, right? Better non-believers than creationists, don't you think? He's actually in an interview and answering the question that way. I mean, better than being a creationist, right? Any cost to get them off of that side, and right, we don't want them getting into that hole. Goodness gracious. Now, you think it ends there, and then you're like, see, when I talk about it being a religion, I want you to remember that the definition that seems most applicable to me is it's the BBC definition of this idea that it's the cause, nature, and purpose of things. That's what a religion is always addressing. The cause of things, the nature of things, and the purpose of things, okay? And then it worships at that altar is what happens, okay? You can see it. Now, whatever that is, in my case, it's a throne of the Almighty, right? But when you think about them, it's always what? It's this idea. It's this ideology. They worship this ideology, and they're serving this ideology here, right? And they always want to tell you there's nothing religious about it. Nothing could be more religious. When people find we have frauds in Christianity, right? I see them. Right, sure. Send me some more of that Holy Spring water, Peter Popoff, right? Kind of business for $50, whatever it might be. But look, we do a poor job of exposing those guys because we want to be generous, and we think that we've been wrong about it, by the way. When you see the Apostle Paul, he has no trouble saying these guys are preaching the gospel for money, right? You watch him in Corinth, and in 2 Corinthians, he's calling them out. Yes, but you understand we've gotten away from that because we're a gentler kind of, we don't want people to think that we're judgmental. Well, of course, on those kind of matters, we are commanded to be judgmental. We don't have an option. We've forgotten that we've been, and I'm as guilty as anybody. Okay, no, it just depends on how if you're raising yourself with it, but when you're protecting the Lord's interest, it's not, you're supposed to be. Right. So now what happens is, here's Bora again. Education is a subversive activity. Now think about what he's saying right out loud. That is implicitly in place in order to counter the prevailing culture.
Wow.
So we have a Christian culture, and he wants to attack it, and he's saying I can knock the underpinnings out of it by telling high school students and college students that it's all wrong because they're gullible enough to trust me. Because I've been hired by the university, okay? Literally, I mean, I'm not making this up. He said, after all, the culture is a deeply conservative religious culture. Yeah, see, so he's telling you in no uncertain terms and publicly in an interview what he thinks, and now that's what got him in trouble with the other atheists, is he's saying what they believe, only you're not supposed to say it out loud.
That's company.
Yeah, you can't do that. So maybe this is isolated. I'm asking myself about this. Maybe it is. Well, how about this? How about if we had a critical thinking exercise in Juliana's school? Okay? So we're saying, let's think through how to think. Now, remember, my mantra is going to be that they're telling her what to think and not teaching her how to think. Right? That's going to show up over and over. But now I say, I propose that we talk about creation versus evolution, and let's think through it critically. Let's teach each other the rules for thinking, okay? Now, but here you go. If you think Bora's alone in this, here we have this National Center for Science Education, another high-sounding, we're kind of middle-of-the-road group. Yeah, it's a deceptive name. It's completely atheist-founded and funded, okay? And that's their agenda. Now, this person in there, very well-known person, if you look her up, her name's Eugenie Scott. Okay. Now, here's what she says. to that idea about making creation, right, and evolution matters of critical thinking in school. In my opinion, using creation and evolution as topics for critical thinking exercises in primary and secondary schools is virtually guaranteed to confuse the students about evolution. Not about truth or how to think, but about evolution. She's afraid evolution, which is her agenda. Yeah, that's right. And may lead them to reject one of the major themes in science. So this is a major theme in science to her mind. Now, tell me what I'm supposed to think of science when I read that. I had a high regard for science all of my life, but it's the scientists that I've lost regard for. And scientism, which is their religion, is a damnable thing, okay? It's a mockery, and this is how they make converts to scientism. And she's telling you that. What if Bill hears this, or Juliana, and they get persuaded by critical thinking that creation makes more sense? We can't have that happen. We had them over here. They're stealing. Bill's stealing kids out of my Sunday school.
Yep. Yeah.
See, that's all this is about. And here we go. So the question is, how much are you paying to have your kid indoctrinated this year at the University of Kentucky? Now, I only say it because we're in Paducah at the moment. I would say the University of Illinois if I were back in Loami.
Yeah.
Okay, so think about it. Is your kid getting indoctrinated? Am I wrong about that? You better find out. Today you can actually find out. You go online, you'll find other parents who are concerned about certain instructors, and you shouldn't rest till you deal with that. Right? Too much at stake. Now, I've told you all along that what's going to end up this, I know the end of this story, and that's that the educational system as you know it today is about to be gutted, okay? Because people are going to withdraw their kids, and they're going to figure out, and corporations have already figured out, to have a kid with a social justice degree, good luck. You get the 7-Eleven job. It doesn't qualify you for anything. We've got all these degrees in meaningless subjects now. And corporations are going to say what Elon Musk does. It doesn't matter. Okay? You're going to find out that idea of having it checked off is no longer going to be necessary. The guy's going to want to know what you know. And you might be better off in knowing something about that computer and programming than you, right, in this age. And anything. Anything's more saleable than this stupid, I've got a college degree, because the guys are starting to ask, in what? And this destroys the credibility of science. It destroys the credibility of paleontology when you get through the Piltdown, and I'm not just talking about Piltdown Man alone, because you're going to find a series of these Nebraska Man and Archaeoraptor and all these fictional things that science has pushed. It's just propaganda. And this lady's very good at propaganda, very poor at actually, why would you put this in writing? It's just stupid. But you've turned your kids over to them, and you're letting them say, I'm going to tell Juliana what to think, and I sent her to school to learn how to think. No, that's not going on. Okay?
Right, and that's such a prime time because kids are really trying to sort out, a little rebellious. They've been under this other thinking and rules and lines, and boy, freedom of line. Let's go.
But the one thing I will say, the parents have been wrong to turn the kids over.
Yep.
But I'm also going to tell you, the kids got to get industrious. Don't be lazy. Don't let some teacher buffalo you without any thought. You're smarter than he thinks you are. He thinks you're so dumb that you'll just buy it, and you do. But the day of being gullible ought to be past, right? There's too many frauds out there.
I'm hearing some really sharp stories of kids that are able to think
and to reply.
And actually, unfortunately flunking out of classes, and I've heard a couple ones.
Yeah. But people are starting to stand up, even sometimes incorrectly, but at least they're listening now. Right.
Science gone wrong.